Hello, fellow Earthlings, and welcome to Deep Dive from the Hive, where we discuss modern-day musician life, answering the call to create, and what it takes to actually produce what you believe in. With your host, Trevor Yarrish, the captain of this submarine. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, so let's batten down the hatches and get to it. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive from the Hive. I'm your host today, actually, Trevor Yarrish, and I'm super excited to be here today with an old friend. He's not that old, but our friendship is old. We have an old friendship. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to the beverage of choice today, Rogue Kombucha, as some would say, tomato. But anyways, Rogue is awesome. They're a sponsor here at the Hive, and we love sipping on the Rogue Kombucha while we do our episodes of this podcast.
Yeah, this one's delicious. Strawberry basil.
Now, you just got to hear this amazing voice next to me, and I'm going to introduce, this is a power episode, I think is what we'll call it. This is the power episode because you get a double dose of Trevor today. So again, I'm your host, Trevor, but then I have sitting on my left here, Mr. Trevor Hanks.
Hello.
Say hello, Trevor.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. It's so good to see you.
Likewise.
And first off, we go way back to we didn't meet through music or performance. We met through a past job, a past employer, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. So we both worked for Dutch Bros back in the day. How long were you there? How long did you work there?
Almost 5 years.
5 years. Yeah.
Coffee house, and then the
shopping center.
Shopping center. That's the one. Yep.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we had a little bit of overlap there, but not a whole lot. And then, but I did come see you regularly for my coffees. Mm-hmm. But you also, one of the things I noticed, I think, and many people probably notice early on when they meet you, is that you have like tattoos of input and output, like audio input jacks tattooed. Uh-huh. And I was like, oh, this guy's a musician. And this again was years ago, right? So fast forward a little bit, and you've just been tearing it up, writing music, and you're singer-songwriter. Mm-hmm. Let's go back a bit, though. I want to hear about, what was your earliest memories of deciding that music was something you wanted in your life?
It was, I remember it exactly. It was, I was 10 years old. My dad had a brain tumor, and then there was, just some stuff going on at home. And then fast forward, or not fast forward yet, but right then and there, I was acting out a lot, as a lot of parents might say. Yeah. And so our pastor at the time, he was like, well, I would love to teach Trevor guitar. And then so my mom was like, sure, take him. Yeah. And then so I did 4-H back then. Uh-huh. So I spent all summer raising a pig, and then I got money from that, and so I went and bought my first guitar and first amp, and he taught me how to play guitar. And it became very quickly a way to escape some big dysfunction in home. And ever since then I'd been hooked. Ironically, it was punk rock that I was drawn to.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so what's some of your big music influences? Who'd you draw from?
I would say at an early age, it was like the classics, like Led Zeppelin, maybe some AC/DC, Kiss. Oh yeah. Even. And then even, when I first discovered punk rock, it was like Slick Shoes. They were like a tiny Christian punk band. But even, ones, I don't think they're that big, but True Sounds of Liberty, they were pretty wild. They were wild for an 11 or 12-year-old to listen to. Uh-huh. Yes. But I wouldn't say that was those are my inspiration. But I think that the mantra, if you will, of punk rock is very much alive and well in me today. Like I just love the the chaotic craziness of it, because that was my life at that time.
Yeah.
And so oddly enough, it calmed me down.
So has music sort of been I don't know, not an escape, but a different, a place to go to for you?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
I would say it's almost therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I mean, I'm sure a lot of artists, singer-songwriters are that way on some level, but it's a way. I have this, I don't know how to say certain things, like just in words.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I can write them down and sing them, and they come out crystal clear somehow.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
Speaking of which, just this last weekend, you were playing on the main stage at Art Along the Rogue here in Grants Pass, which was an awesome event. The weather was amazing. The art was incredible. All the vendors and the music all weekend was incredible. Got to see your lady, Christina.
Shout out to Christina.
Christina. She was awesome, obviously. She's so talented and great. But you guys are a power couple on that stage.
That's so cool. I agree.
Anyways, so I'm watching your set, loving it. It's so good. You know, you've got some covers, and then you're weaving in some of your originals, and then the song comes on. That was an original. Death to Self, is that the one?
Death to Self.
Death to Self. You start playing that song, and it's like, I mean, it was just so moving and powerful, and had a great hook and story, the whole thing. It was just like, it was a complete song. Like, and again, not that the covers you were playing or your other originals weren't, but that song grabbed me. And I looked over, and 2 seats down, there was this other guy I didn't know. And he was just like mesmerized. And like, he had his eyes closed for like, and he's just in it grooving.
Wow.
And the song's getting over, and he opens his eyes and looks over, and we catch each other's, and he's just like, wow, he does that look,
That's so cool.
And I yell, I'm like, that's a hit right there. Like that song is amazing. So maybe in a little while, we'll get you to share that song. But tell me the story about that song.
So it's a very honest song. I wrote it for my wife. We had gotten in an argument, and it was 100%. I was just being a moron. I was choosing,
as we are.
Yeah, I was choosing my own things. You know, my own needs above her own, and I don't know why. Like, it was the weirdest thing. And then I felt I was just so guilty and so convicted by it. And the next morning I wrote that song, and then it was later that night that I actually recorded it in the studio. It was the craziest thing.
That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Inspired.
It was just one of those, it's like, it's the songs that you like feel the most, that are just super real. Like that one was super real because it was, you know, it was an argument like / fight that Christina and I had. And I was being such a jackass. and then I just woke up, just feeling super guilty. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like I failed as a husband. Like I have to put her needs above my own. And so, so I just called the song Death to Self. And that's it really.
It's amazing. And hopefully we'll get to hear that song in a few, but when I mentioned that to you before, you said that you said it was actually kind of ironic that I called that one out because it almost wasn't going to be on this album.
It wasn't.
By the way, Trevor's got a new album coming out, and we're doing an album release show here at the Hive. It's going to be killer, so definitely check that out. Get your tickets. But yeah, you said it wasn't going to be on this album. As a matter of fact, it was even had a whole different take on the song. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the night that we got in that argument, super guilty, woke up the next morning, wrote that song, and then all day long I was kind of working on it and pondering it. And then I had sent it to my producer, Jeremy Oliveira, and I was like, hey, what do you think of this song? And he was like, it's okay. It's not one of your better ones or whatever. And these are just demos, you know, like little voice memos that I had in my phone.
Yeah.
And then but I kept going back to it. And I was just like, I really like, no, it has to be there just because of the message and the story behind it. And in like a way I wanted to honor Christina in that. And so then it was almost time to go to the studio. It was probably around 2-3 o'clock. Jeremy voice memos me back and he's like, what if you do it like this? And he had everything. I had written it like an upbeat kind of Tom Petty type feel. And it ended up not being that at all. It ended up being kind of a little dark, a little depressing sounding. But, and that was Jeremy's just a great producer. That was all his idea. And he's like, what if we just slow it down and we go halftime and make it kind of lazy? And so that's what we did. And then the crazy thing is it was I remember when we recorded it, I played drums for that song. And so we were messing around with it in the studio. And then he ended up playing acoustic while I was recording drums. So the acoustic guitar and the drums that you hear, it was the only take that we did that, because it was just the feels were there. Yeah. It was so cool.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, I've only heard the song acoustic, right? So you played it, just you, your guitar, your voice, and a few thousand people. And it was like, it was so honest, so present. But I am looking forward to hearing the full version of it. But that version is so intimate, you know? It was just like, it felt like you and I were in a room together. Yeah. And you were just singing the song and I was just there with you. And I kind of imagine that everybody that was there had that moment with that song. And that's why, again, you know, it's like, man, I was dancing, I was enjoying the whole set. That song took me to a place that was like, you know, I felt it deeply, you know?
That's so cool.
So anyways.
I did notice that it's funny, I did notice like a few others, there was like a few people that kind of turned their head and they were like, what is this? But it's, you know, I tend to not notice that stuff. So it was kind of a cool thing where I'm like, whoa, people notice, yay.
Yeah. I also loved your Tiffany nod.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, you took that song and made it your own. That was awesome.
I love doing that with specifically with 80s pop songs.
Yeah.
I like to take them and make them a bit emo, a bit depressing sounding. I actually do another one of Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
But then you bust it out. Like, you know, you that's the sort of MO of the song.
Yeah.
And then you take it to this place that's like almost celebratory. Like you're celebrating, you know, this emotion and anyways, awesome.
So cool.
We were talking about this earlier and I feel like because I've heard you and it's interesting because I've heard you in snapshots over the years. Like time will go by in between hearing you, and which is my bad because I should come see. I just should hunt down your performances. But I've heard you over the years in snapshots, and so you know, unlike a lot of artists that I hear or perform here that I follow, I've heard you grow over the years. I've heard your songwriting grow. I've heard, you know, like, which is you just getting more comfortable as a songwriter, being more open and writing about stuff that's like, hits you in the feels, like you said, you know, and that vulnerability comes through in your songs. It really, really does. But then just as a vocalist, like your power and your breath control, all the things, like you've become just this incredible powerhouse of a singer. And, you know, and again, like I mentioned this too, like there are people who don't have great breath control, and are huge stars because they have a sound and they've created this, you know, that's part of their shtick. And so each to their own, but at the same time, I think that when you have that control, when you have developed that, what you can do is all your choice at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you've been leveraging that a lot. Like your performance the other day was just, I mean, it was hot out and the sun was beating down and you were just in a zone. You followed the Illies played right before you, so you were like after them.
That was a hard one.
It was a full band of the Illies, and they were killing it. And then there's a solo act, and it's acoustic solo act. So tough act to follow, but dude, you killed it, and it was so fun, and it was so rewarding as an audience member, as a friend. It was inspiring.
That's
to
so
be
cool.
honest. Yeah. So
Really
I'm super
that.
excited for your show here.
Me too. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
Tell me about the composition of your show. What kind of band are you bringing?
So it's my backing band, the Blackburn Rebels. I'm trying to do like a, well, not trying to do, I guess I am doing like a Bruce Springsteen thing where he has his E Street band.
The E Street band.
And so they're my band. And so obviously like at Art Along the Road, I played by myself, and then on occasion we'll do full band shows with them. And so they're going to be playing. They've been working really hard. They've it's funny because they played a lot on this record, and but live they take, the sounds are just better, and it's really hits you in the face. It's just so good. So that I get excited when we practice. Like every time we practice, I always am sitting in my chair and I'm playing, and I'm singing. But then at some point, usually 10 to 12 minutes into practice, I like grab my microphone, I put it up on, and I'm like, okay, I got to stand because it's just so much fun. So I'm bringing them.
Who is them?
It's actually a kind of a full circle moment. It's my oldest friends, Brendan Luce, Caleb Benedict, who actually played with me when I was in a band. We started this band when I was 12.
Wow.
And I played in it until I was 20. And so Caleb was the drummer, or Brennan started off as the drummer. And then a funny quick story about him. We were on our way to his house for practice. I think we were like 14 or 15. And we walk into his house and he's just sitting in his recliner and he's playing the guitar solo to Back in Black from AC/DC, note perfect. And we're like, we didn't even know he played guitar. And we're like,
what?
Okay, like you're playing guitar now. And then we knew Caleb, and so we were like, okay, it was between him and another guy, and we were like, let's get Caleb. And so Caleb, and then we were 4-piece for a little while. And so anyway, so it's those two. It's Brendan Luce, Caleb Benedict. Brendan plays guitar, Caleb plays drums, and then a friend that I just kind of got back in contact with, Michael Heater.
Oh yeah.
We grew up together as kids, and then they moved down to California for a little while, and just like natural life paths, seem to shift, and so they moved back up here a little while back. He's playing bass, and then my brother-in-law, who unfortunately he's not going to be playing at the show with us, but he plays keys, and he's incredible. And then my wife actually is in the band. She plays acoustic guitar and sings.
Wow. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's
what a delight.
Yeah. Every time I think about it, I'm like, man, this is crazy. It's my oldest friends and my family. Like, what a trip.
What a trip. How awesome.
Yeah, it's so
well,
cool.
that's a tribute to who you are, to be honest, that these people, surround you and, support you and play behind you and play your music. Like that's an honor to have people play your music. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, a tribute to the artists that you've developed into, and tell me about how you got into like writing music. When did that start?
That started shortly after I learned how to play guitar.
Okay. So it was in there.
Yeah.
You just needed a vehicle to get it. You need a medium to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I learned how to play guitar. And so the pastor that taught me, he just taught me the basic, A through G major chords, like not even the minor chords, just majors. And then after that,
he was into upbeat music. He was into happy, positive
he was into
music.
the church music.
Yes. You're like, teach me the minor chords, and the minor keys. Come on, let's do this.
And so it's funny because like I will never forget when I first played like an E minor. I thought I had discovered this new chord that nobody had made. And I was like, what is this? Come to find out, it's like one of the most common chords in music. So yeah, it was. But yeah, so it was right after I learned how to play guitar. Because like I was saying earlier, my dad had a brain tumor, and it was kind of this way to escape. And so I started playing like punk rock, and then when my dad had this brain tumor, my childhood best friend at the same time, he also had a brain tumor.
What?
Mm-hmm. And the difference was my dad's was like right on the outside of his skull, or right on the inside of his skull. I can't remember. And his was pretty easily operable. And then David's, his tumor was in the center of his brain, and it was inoperable, and ended up taking his life. And I wrote a song right after that, and I called it David's Song. And it's I have it somewhere, but it was just a 13-year-old, angry, confused, whatever, punk rock. And it's kind of nostalgic. It was just, even for 13, it was just, I think I sang about like, how we'd play flag football and, this kind of stuff. And so, that was like the turning point, I think, in songwriting, when I realized that it was that thing where I figured out that, okay, there's the things that I can't say, like when I'm talking, but I can say in a song. And that was that was like the turning point for songwriting, when I was like, okay, I want to do this more. And then I started writing a lot of stuff. I've written a ton of songs when I was young, and even now.
How many albums have you released?
Released 2.
Well, yeah. So
yeah, I've always been really bad at that kind of stuff, at like marketing. And so even when I was in that band with Caleb and Brennan, when we were younger, I think we officially released one 6-song EP I'm sorry. Nope, that's not wrong. That's wrong. It was, we actually recorded. Yep, it's coming back now. we recorded when I was 13. That was when we had recorded like David's Song, and then I think we recorded like 7 or 8 more, and then we had started recording a couple years later on another couple of things that we didn't end up actually finishing, and then we went, and this is, I think when we were 16, 17. We met this guy up in Portland. His name is Stefan, yeah. And he oh my gosh, it was amazing. I still listen to that album, or that EP, every now and again. But we did a 6-song EP, and then that was the last thing that Nope, it wasn't. It keeps coming back. We actually
digging out the archives here.
100%. I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time. So we recorded that EP, and then it was a little while after that, we actually flew to Ohio to record. It was some like record label. I think they wanted to make like a compilation of all these bands that they had like kind of heard of, and so they were flying bands out. By flying out, we had to pay for our own flight, but they wanted bands to come out and record these songs with them, so they could put them on an album, and then like give them to their upper people or whatever. And then that was the first time I had hated producers, because they were trying. I mean, classic battle with an artist and a producer. The artist or the producer is most time is gonna like reshape your sound just a little bit. Well, these guys, they didn't. They reshaped it in a way that was not our sound. So we're not too proud of those 3 songs that we did, and we don't really show people. But so I mean, I would say, grand total, a full and a half album worth of music is all I've ever actually recorded, up until, when I was like 22 or something like that. Then I recorded another full-length album, and then this is the last one. Wow.
And how long have you been working on this album that's about to come out?
2 years.
2 years.
2.5. Yeah, it would have been maybe 2.5 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think I've heard most of the tracks off of it in different incarnations.
Yep.
And it really is great.
Thank you.
And
it means a lot.
Yeah, tell me about, so what the name of the album is?
Glorious Ruins.
Glorious Ruins. Tell me about, like, what is?
It's so we started working on this thing. like 2.5-ish years ago. And there had been a pretty big shift in life, probably 3.5 years ago, and like a career shift, and so I kind of went to a dark spot.
It's like COVID.
Yeah, it was right around there, and I went to a pretty dark spot. I think for probably about 2-3 months. I became an alcoholic and was just kind of, it was like, oh, a little booze in the coffee, no big deal, and then it was like 4 or 5 cups of coffee.
A little coffee in the booze.
Yeah, exactly. And so I kind of quickly realized, and I thank God for Christina, because she was like, you're being a jackass, knock it off. I mean, she didn't say it so eloquently like that, but
yeah.
Yeah, so I just started. That was when I started writing these songs, and these songs are really just they're kind of expressions of different little seasons that I was in. So like I have a song on the record. It's called "Ghosts at 3 a.m." and there was like a quick little season of life where I don't know why, but every morning at 3 a.m. something would wake me up, and it wasn't this like, oh, I can't sleep, or there was a noise outside, and it was something. It felt like a darkness, like something. I'm going to use the word demonic was like around, because I would wake up believing these just really dark, deep lies about myself, and so I ended up writing a song about it, "Ghosts at 3 a.m." And then, like I have another like "Death to Self's" another one where it's about a specific. So it's all these. It's a collective, if you will, of these songs from different little mini seasons of life, and it all kind of revolves around this idea that I had when I was writing it, that I'm like, man, I'm so broken, but at the same time, I'm a church goer, and so I put my faith in Jesus, and so it's one of the cool things about putting your faith in Christ is you're made it glorious after that. Like there's this hope of like, sure, there's temporal, pain and suffering and this and that, like while you're here on earth, but one day it goes away, life's short. And so and so the idea being that, we're ruins, like it's this like visual picture for me of like, Aztec ruins or like something like that, where they're completely ruined. But, millions of people go to these things every year just to see how beautiful they are still.
Right.
And so it's kind of that idea of like we're
even though
ruined but glorious at the same time. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Yeah, that's super powerful. And I will say that again, there's definitely this like through line of it comes out in the music, right? So these songs have these titles, they have these names that are pretty intense, death to self and whatnot. But at the same time, this is kind of what I was like alluding to, even in how you approach cover songs. Like it's this like real, almost tragic approach to the music where it's like, it's guttural, you feel it, and it's sad, maybe even depressing or dark in places. But then at some point there's light, and there's there's the sort of triumphant redemption piece of it that is celebrating, and that it's so powerful, because I think that's how we oftentimes end up, going, it's a roller coaster ride. And especially people who deal with depression, deal with, there's bipolar, different people who truly experience the spectrum of emotion. Right. And so that's sort of like a peek into that deep valley, and then like coming up the other side to like then see the view at the top of the next summit, And so it really is. It's beautiful and it's sad.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the whole idea. And I think that's how we all are as humans, and it's just so that was that's the idea.
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned Christina's singing with you in the band. How did you guys meet? You guys have been married how long now?
Oh man, did 17, 18,
I just put you on the
24,
spot.
22, 20, 6 years.
Okay.
Holy crap.
6 years.
I almost said 5,
Yeah.
but it was 6. I knew that, Christina.
How did you guys meet? Was it through music or
no
church?
It was so it's kind of funny. Her sister and a couple of mutual friends, this is before I knew her and she knew me, they were telling her, hey, you have to meet this guy. He's one of the worship leaders at my church. You got to meet this guy. And she was kind of like, no. She's like, I don't want a church person, which I get. And so, at first, like I got told about her and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, whatever. And she was going through some stuff at the time. And so I didn't really, and I wasn't really looking for anything. And so, it's kind of crazy how it happened. I met her November 28th of 2016. Yeah. And then, and that was, she had Facebook messaged me. And so there was all these people, yo, you got to meet Trevor, you got to meet Christina. And then she told her sister and some friends, she's like, well, or I could just Facebook him. And so she did. And she's like, so apparently people want us to meet. And so I'm just Facebooking you.
Wow. Awesome.
And I was like, well, let's just get him to throw us a party anyways, because why not? And then, so that was November 28th, 2016 that she messaged me. And then we got married August 19th, 2017.
Yep. Awesome.
It was fast.
But awesome.
Yeah.
And
when you get older, you just know.
Yeah. So at what point did music come into your relationship?
Well, obviously she's a musician.
She's incredible. Yeah.
So it was the week, I think it was the week after New Year in 2017. She came up and she did worship with me at church, and that was like our first time that we had ever done anything musically, and I didn't really even know her still. So it was just kind of this. I was like, "Why don't you do worship with me?" And then, and she's a guitar teacher, and so we kind of, it's weird. We kind of actually have our own separate entities when it comes to music, but a lot more people lately have been like, hey, you guys should do more stuff together. So we're going to do more stuff together. I'm actually pretty pumped on this record. There's a feature that she has on it with me. It's a song called There's No One Else. And it's another song that I wrote about her. It's just all about there's no one else that I'd want to be with, kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So music's just now, it's just kind of interwoven into everything that we do. We do it together separately.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. And that you guys get each other, like there's a thing, because being a musician, specifically someone who's drawn to writing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different experience, right?
Yeah.
And it's a different motivation, and the way that you spend your time, how you spend, sometimes you just need to go away, sometimes, whatever it is. And so that kind of leads into the next question I had for you, which is, what is your process? What's your songwriting process?
I think that it's very different, because I actually don't talk to a lot of other singer-songwriters, and I'm not familiar with most people's processes, so I just kind of assume that mine's a little different. And this is where Christina and I think we're really good for each other, because she'll make time in the day to sit down and like, okay, I'm going to write a song and generate like something out of nothing. And it's amazing. I can't do that to save my life.
Yeah.
So usually it's like at nighttime, I'll have a dream where I'll hear a melody, or I'll hear a chord progression or something. or even just randomly throughout the day. Like I cannot explain it. It's like a progression or something will like hit my brain, and I'll grab my phone and like, okay, I got to get my voice memo out and like hum it. Or if I have a guitar, which I usually do, then I'll just like play it really quick. It's very, yeah. And there's times where that'll happen multiple times throughout the day. And I'll get 4, 5, 6, 7 starts to a song in one day. And then there's other times where there's nothing. Like I'll go for a month or a month and a half, and I have absolutely nothing. And those are the times where I probably should sit down and try to write something.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess I'm just not wired that way. I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, sometimes, yeah. First off, there is something to be said about just the inspiration striking you, right?
Yeah.
Being struck by it. But then there also is a lot of science and a lot of studies around creating a practice that puts you in that inspired space, that changes your state. And you create rituals, and by going through those rituals, you can be you can put yourself in that creative state, as well as just, do you journal? Do you write? Do you just sit down and journal?
That's so funny you asked that. Christine and I talk about this all the time. I have no joke, probably 25 journals that I have maybe 4 or 5 pages that are started.
Yeah.
So yes, but I never finish anything.
Yeah. Well, that's another piece too, is again, if you find yourself in a spell where it's just not striking you, just sit down and start writing your thoughts, right? Stream of consciousness, just write what comes to mind. And that, and again, it's because you're making different connections, all those things.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I'm always curious about people's approach to writing, and I hear both of those. I hear it just strikes me sometimes. Sometimes I wake up, or sometimes I'm walking or I'm hanging out with somebody. I'm like, I got to peace out because something came to mind. And then there's other people who it's a practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's, I think, something that might be different, and something that, a lot of innovation comes from learning something that works over here and applying it to something over here. And so in like, as a songwriter, if it's something that you are taking as that's your profession, this is like what I do, is I write music, release music, whatnot, taking a cue from authors.
Yeah.
And you have authors that just have writer's block and they can't get past it, and they have this block, and then it becomes an excuse to not even sit down and start because they get stuck.
Right.
But then there's other writers who it's a practice that it's like, even if, and this is something that Christina, it sounds like, does, there's no pressure on writing a song today. Yeah. But I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a song. Yep. And it could suck. I might throw it away. It'll never see the light of day, but I'm going to write a song today.
Yep.
And just sit down and go. And, what comes from that might be 6 starts.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So anyhow, that's something to think about. And
Absolutely.
I keep hearing different people having these different processes. And because again, you're a good songwriter. I mean, like, I enjoy your music. I enjoy your storytelling, through your music. And then how do you take a song, how do you take lyrics, a story, and turn it into a song? What's your process for that?
I guess it just depends on the sound of the song for me. Like I try to, okay, so it's going to take a little bit of explaining. So whenever something is trendy, I tend to run the opposite way.
Okay.
So I'm going to start there. So when I write songs, like, if I know something is going to be happy, quote unquote, my instant thought is like, okay, it's fine if the song sounds happy. What could I write about lyrically that would say otherwise, even though the music's happy? that's usually where I go to. So like back to that song Ghosts at 3 a.m. Like it's actually kind of a depressing song, but musically it's very just like upbeat and rock and roll. But like the chorus, it just has this hook that just says at 3 a.m. the ghosts are coming for you, which that doesn't sound
That sounds
happy.
terrifying, actually.
Yeah. And and there's like even a line in the song that says sometimes, it's like in reference to being up at 3 a.m. It's like, it says, sometimes I laugh, think, pray, or cry. Kind of this like, ooh, this is all of what could be going on in that moment. But all while that's happening, you have this like, there's a cowbell in the song, and cowbells never sound sad. It's just funny. It actually starts with cowbell and drums.
Fantastic.
But
I
yeah.
need more cowbell.
Absolutely. Doing it all wrong.
Doing it all wrong. So good. And so I think like there's something about that too, where taking that twist, you have this initial inclination, this song's going this direction, or the words, the story feels a certain way. And then you try and juxtapose that, right?
Yeah.
You try and go and that it can come out in a couple of different ways. One, it can create a way more interesting sound, right? Something that is more complex, has a deeper feel to it. It could also come out a little gimmicky at times, right?
Totally.
It's like, and so I think that there's probably a balancing act there. I love that depth though. I love that, ability to take. I really like when somebody covers a song and changes the meaning of it just by changing the way they approach the song.
Yeah.
Not changing any words or lyrics in the song, but just changing the performance of it brings a whole different meaning to that song. And so you can do that with your own music, right? And it sounds like that's what you did with Death to Self.
Yeah.
Like you had one approach, and then, this other approach is the one that is ultimately what it ended up on the album. So awesome. That's great. So you said you drum on some things, you play guitar, obviously you're a great guitarist. You sing. Any other instruments in your repertoire?
I play bass, not much, but I do play bass. It's actually, so not to give too much away of this, but like, so even though I'm doing the album release for this album, I've already started working on my next album.
What?
And I've already, they're not finished, but I have 4 songs that are just about done. And I've done, so far, I've done everything with the exception of like some lead guitar that Jeremy did.
Okay.
So I've done, it sounds a lot different than this album, but anyways, but we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, but on this one specifically, Caleb did most of the drumming. I think I played drums on 2 songs, and then I did a lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of electric guitar. Brennan also played electric guitar. And then Jeremy did like any kind of key sounds or anything like that. I can play keys, but not that well.
Yeah. You can play a song.
Yeah.
You can learn your song and play your song, but
I can play on the black keys.
Yes.
But apparently that's easy for everybody.
Black keys always sound good.
It's true.
Awesome. Well, I really want to hear you play
Okay.
Death to Self. I want to get into that. But I guess, you mentioned that you're moving it. You already started your next album. It's got different tone, different sound. Maybe you're in a different phase, different mode.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, what can we look forward to in the future? Like, and again, you don't have to reveal anything about what's to come, but that's fine. But like, where do you see yourself going as an artist?
I mean, honestly, I think I've kind of already got there. That sounds.
You've arrived.
Yeah. Yes, but like obviously no. Like it's like I'm able to do what I've always wanted to do. Like, which is write songs and play with a band. Or it's only the last, I would say, 3-ish years that I'm starting to really enjoy like doing the solo singer-songwriter type stuff. And I never really liked it before because it was very It was very vulnerable. And so, and I, which is ironic because I'm usually an open book, but there's something about being on a stage with your guitar by yourself. And I don't know. And maybe it's because it goes back to childhood where, you know, it's like, it was this form of therapy. It was this form of like getting things out because life wasn't the greatest or whatever. And so maybe there's something deep in there that's like, you know, in my brain, it kind of reminds me of that. But I'm starting to like it more. I really love being able to see like the looks on people's face when you play a song and they're like, whoa, I like this a lot. You know, it's cool to see that it's actually like impacting people in real time.
Awesome.
And so, just playing lots more music, recording lots more music. There's some really cool stuff that is in the works that I probably can't talk about. I know that sounds so cliche to say from an artist.
I can't talk about
I'm under
NDA.
But like, oh my gosh. But
that's good.
But it's true. There's just some.
I know
things.
you can't talk about it, but if you could, what would you say? I'm just kidding.
No, I am an open book. I'm actually really. It's funny because like, I'm so focused now on like this next record that like this one Glorious Ruins that's coming out, it almost feels really old to me. Even though it's
well,
not.
the songs have been living with you for a few years now, right?
It's weird to see in like in real time this like the difference between where I was at mentally, like between this record Glorious Ruins and then this new one that I'm working on. It's still very honest, and it's, you know, but it's
Sure.
there's just a different sound. It's completely different in I'll give this piece away. It's Glorious Ruins is like, it's all full band songs except for one song. And then this next record is going to be 5 full band songs and then 5 like acoustic, really moody songs.
Ooh.
So I'm actually not doing a full length record. I'm doing a double EP, but releasing it together.
Nice.
So
awesome.
yeah.
I think, you know, that's interesting. You talk about how it feels old and you're in this different space. Can you imagine what it's like for a band that found a ton of success at a young age and now they have to play all of those songs for 20 years or 30 years, you know? Like they get to play the new stuff, but their fans still want to hear all those old songs because they're in love with them. That's what they fell in love with them through. And so even like, can you like, you know, you imagine like all these bands that have been around for 30, 40 years and, you know, you mentioned Bruce Springsteen, like he still plays Born to Run. Like he's, you know what I mean? Like, which is amazing. And as a fan, when you go and you watch, you know, Rosalita, like all the, you know, Kitty's Back, like these songs, when he pulls them out and he plays them, like he's been playing those for decades.
Yeah.
And yet here he is, like, you know, he's still playing them because it's what the fans want to see.
Absolutely.
Too, you know? So that's
always that is an interesting thing to think about.
But as an artist that doesn't have that, you know, obviously that level of fandom, but you have people who like you and follow you and come see your shows, you get to take them where you want to take them anytime, right? That's interesting. I hadn't really ever thought about it like that, but okay, I'm going to focus on something else here. We're changing topic a little bit.
I'm ready.
You have a glorious beard.
Thank you.
And you have had that beard for pretty much ever since I've known you. When did this thing strike your face?
Oh man, I think had to been like early 20s, maybe like 23-ish.
And it's just been there since.
Yeah, and it wasn't this long, but I don't know. The older I get, the less that I just care. Like when I was younger, I would shave it to where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna groom it and make it look good, and now I'm just like, looks fine. I look in the mirror and I'm like, it's fine. And then it's, you know. But the nice thing is Christina likes it too.
Good.
She's told me before. She's like, if you cut your beard, that might be it.
Well, and it's funny because I've seen pictures of you without your beard, but they're like young pictures. Matter of fact, if you've ever been to a Trevor Hanks show, then you probably have a picture of Trevor's face because Trevor, one of your sticks, one of the fun things, your swag, your stickers and magnets and coasters and like usually they're of your face in different ways, different ages, different things. And so the funniest thing I think it was that Christmas gig at
Weekend. That's right.
Which was super fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Super fun. Anyways, my kids were there and we're hanging out and we're listening to you guys, and then they love stickers. So we came over and we got some stickers, and I grabbed this magnet of you, a childhood picture of you. And we ended up, and I just thought it was hilarious. So I took it and we go home, and like a week later, it's still like sitting with some other things on the counter, one of the counters. And I look at it and I just happened to walk by the refrigerator, and on the refrigerator is like, my nieces and my kids' school pictures. It's all school pictures and sports pictures, And then I just walked by that, and then I saw this 12-year-old picture, 9-year-old picture of you, magnet, I grabbed it and I put it on my refrigerator next to all my kids' pictures.
Yes.
And my niece's pictures. And and it's the funniest thing because people come over, people who know us really well, and they're like, "Who's that?" And it's the best. I just leave it up there to confuse people and mess with people. Even my kids are like,
awesome.
"Who's that?" It's the funniest thing. I think I sent a picture of that to you, right?
Yeah.
Of my refrigerator, because I just think it's so funny.
That's hilarious. I just did that as a joke because I was like, I was going through old pictures.
Yeah.
And I found it. I'm like,
it's a great shit. It's
like,
you're like all
that's
excited.
Gotta be something. And then I was just like, I'm gonna
Should
make
be an
stickers.
album cover.
It might be the next one. I'm not sure.
oh,
Maybe.
oh.
I don't know. We'll see.
You heard it here, folks.
But I'm neither confirming nor denying, but that's pretty obvious when people say that. I just thought it was hilarious. And then I put it out at shows.
Yeah.
And then
they disappear.
That's like
People grab them.
Oh my gosh. I think I have only a few of those left.
That's so funny.
Hilarious. I need to order more.
I did grab one of these ones that's like kind of glittery, holographic-y.
Oh yeah.
Of your face with the colors, That one's super fun. That's cool.
Oh,
but anyways, so the beard is definitely a trademark. It's a part of your image, if you will.
I thought about shaking it up and just getting rid of it one day. Just for funsies. I probably won't, but
for funsies. It'll grow back.
Yeah, exactly.
Slowly.
And that's the hard part.
So then in addition to that, you've got tattoos, and it looks like you tell stories on your body through tattoos, because I don't want to say it's they don't all necessarily relate to each other, but it looks like you've got like there's love, there's music, there's all kinds of stories on your arms. So what do tattoos mean to you?
It's they're very growing up, I'd see all these punk rockers with tattoos, and I'm like, that's so dope.
That's so hard.
Yeah. So even when I was like 12, I was like, I can't wait to get my first tattoo. I had no idea what I was talking about. And I'm just like, I can't wait to get tattoos. And then and then I think I got my first tattoo when I was like 21. And they're on my ankles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, the hidden ones, because that's where you start, right?
Exactly. Well, at the time I was like a kid right out of high school. I mean, well, a couple years out of high school, and I had an internship at a church, and so I was like, but I always knew I wanted to get tattoos, and so I got them, and I was like sitting at a meeting, and I'm just like pointing my ankles like inside, like toward myself, just like hoping that they can't see me. Like, I hope they don't see these.
That's hilarious.
But then afterwards, I didn't care.
And
but
then
yeah,
you just flex them now. You just rock it. What are some of the more meaningful ones to you?
This I like. This is one of my favorite ones. It says, "How sweet the sound," and it's just going back to the idea of the grace that's been freely given to us, because of the sacrifice Christ made on the cross for us, and that one. And then there's this one. It's a kind of an old timey microphone.
Yeah,
and it says, "My voice, your glory," and so that's
that's why you sing. That's what you.
Yeah,
You're.
That's the end goal. Really, that's what I want to point people toward.
Yeah.
And and you know, it's funny because I think a lot of people, you know, and this is, I don't know, I could be wrong in this, but I feel like a lot of people in church, you know, it's like, well, you have to be this full blown singing it like Jesus, Jesus.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not glorifying him. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think when you sing honestly and you sing openly and it's, you know, I think that's very much worshipful.
Sure.
So I don't know.
Yep.
Anyways, but yeah.
Awesome. So that's another side of your singing too. You lead worship a lot. I know you do here at Philippi these days, but you've led worship at 3 churches.
Yeah, I was
something like that.
I was on staff at a couple.
Yeah.
in town here, and that was my job for a little while.
And what does that mean to you? Like, how does that work? Like, how'd you end up there?
I've always had just kind of like random jobs, and then I always thought like, well, if I could get a job doing worship at a church, then there's my in toward music. And really, it's just so different. Like, I mean, sure, it's kind of an in, but worship music isn't the music I want to be playing.
Sure.
I mean, it's like I just said earlier, like I feel like a lot of what I do in some aspects is worshipful music. It's because, you know, worship isn't so much. Worship is this big word. Then there's lots of little things like what happens on a Sunday morning at church is praise. You know, they're giving glory to the Lord and that kind of thing. And worship is just kind of this. It's like a daily thing that I, you know, and that's where these songs come in. It's like I want these songs to ultimately, you know, it's if I'm conveying my thoughts to Christ. And I'm like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Like, I think he appreciates that. Like, there's actually a story in the Old Testament where Jacob, I'm pretty sure it's Jacob. It might be Isaac. It's one of those guys. It's Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. Well, it's not Abraham, but it's Isaac or Jacob. And he wrestles with the pre-incarnate Jesus, and like physically wrestles with this guy. And he doesn't know that it's Jesus, but he knows that it's God. And so, and he's holding on to him and he's grasping him for dear life. And he says, I'm not going to let go until you bless me. And that always stuck out to me. I'm like, he's not going to let go until he gets, okay. And then God like puts his hip out of place, and then he finally lets go. And then he gets blessed. And I'm like, man, I want that. I want that. Like, I want to be able to wrestle with God, go to God honestly with my thoughts. And my songs, that's what these are. They're just my thoughts going to him honestly and being like, hey, this is where I'm at.
Awesome.
You know, anyway.
That's awesome.
Not to get too preachy, but
no, it's your story, man. I want to hear your story. I want to, you know, what motivates you, what you care about, what you believe, what you think, how you think, you know, all those things. So thank you for sharing. Thanks for coming on today, and
thank you.
Sharing your story. Is there any shout outs you want to give, or any places that people can find your music?
Oh yeah. All the streaming stuff, Spotify, iTunes,
your Trevor
Amazon.
Hanks on those.
Yeah. Yeah. Just search Trevor Hanks, or you can go to my my website.
He doesn't spell it right. It's Trevor.
It's true. He's got the right spelling. So if you go to Trever Hanks.com, you might see him.
That's a different incarnation. Yeah. So Trevor with an OR, Trevor Hanks, which is the way most everybody spells it. And yeah, Spotify, all the places. And when does that new album drop? When can they go listen to it at one of those places?
November 3rd.
November 3rd.
It comes out the day of the album release.
Yes. So November 3rd, here live at the Hive, we will have Trevor on our stage, and that's the day his album drops. So if you can't be here in person, are we streaming your show?
I don't think so.
Do you want to stream your show? We might be streaming the show.
Maybe. We'll see.
But if you're not able to join that, catch it live, you definitely check out the album on Spotify or Apple or any of the places. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you pick up that axe there?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And
come on.
Give us a little example, a little demonstration.
Should I move the microphone a little
We
bit?
can definitely, Yeah, let's see.
Do one of these.
Yep, do one of these.
That should be good.
Is that good? Joe, do we have a good visual? Looking pretty
cool.
good. All right.
Yeah, here we go.
Little sound check here.
Oh, yeah.
Good. How we sounding over there? All right. Let's do it. So this is Death to Self
Death to Self.
by
Yep.
Trevor Hanks.
There's something standing in my way, and I don't know what the hell to say or do. There's something I can't seem to change. Just want to die to myself today. So I keep wandering while the world keeps spinning round. Oh, there's no one left but you. There's nothing that I wouldn't do. I'd give it all up just for you, for you. So I keep wandering while the world keeps spinning round. Oh, there's no one left but you. So I keep wandering while the world keeps spinning round. Oh, there's no one left but you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Trevor Hanks, everybody. Hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time.